Now we are going to discuss about space rocket. A space rocket is a vehicle with a very powerful jet engine designed to carry people or equipment beyond Earth and out into space. If we define space as the region outside Earth's atmosphere, that means there's not enough oxygen to fuel the kind of conventional engine you'd find on a jet plane. What are the parts of a space rocket? There are four major systems in a fail rocket: the structural system, the payload system, the guidance system, and the propulsion system. The nose cone carries the payload or cargo. Common payloads include astronauts, satellites, scientific instruments, and even explosives. The nose cone may also contain the guidance system that controls the flight direction of the rocket. Now discuss about rocket materials. For the main frame, most rockets use aerospace-grade aluminum or titanium since both metals are very strong but lightweight. Future rocket designs are even looking into using carbon composite structures. Aluminum, however, melts at the high re-entry temperatures. Next to rocket weight. The mass of a rocket is the same on the surface of the Earth, the Moon and Mars. But on the surface of the Moon, the weight force is approximately 1/6 the weight on Earth, and on Mars the weight is approximately 1/3 the weight on Earth. How does a rocket engine work? Like most engines, rockets burn fuel. Most rocket engines turn the fuel into hot gas. The engine pushes the gas out its back. The gas makes the rocket move. A rocket engine doesn't need air. This is the study of how air flows over a rocket and how this affects drag and stability. The nose cone and fins of a rocket are designed to minimize drag, that is air resistance, and to provide stability and control, that is keep it pointing in the right direction without wobbling. There are two main types of rocket engines. Some rockets use liquid fuel. The main engines on the Space Shuttle orbiter use liquid fuel. Other rockets use solid fuels. On the side of the Space Shuttle are two white solid rocket boosters. They use solid fuels. Fireworks and model rockets also fly using solid fuels. Rocket speed. If a rocket is launched from the surface of the Earth, it needs to reach a speed of at least 7.9 km per second, that is 4.9 miles per second, in order to reach space. The speed of 7.9 km per second is known as the orbital velocity. It corresponds to more than 20 times the speed of sound. Why is rocket fuel so cold? Hydrogen, the fuel for the main engines, is the lightest element and normally exists as a gas. To get around this problem, turn the hydrogen gas into a liquid which is denser than a gas. This means cooling the hydrogen to a temperature of -423 degrees Fahrenheit, that is -253 degrees Celsius. Why is rocket exhaust white? The white tracks behind a rocket engine can either be a water contrail, that is when the engine burns liquid hydrogen and oxygen. Or, for example, in the case of a solid rocket motor, maybe a small solid particles left behind as combustion products. The color depends on the exact type of fuel being used. Why do rockets look so slow? In reality, the mass of the rocket is reduced as fuel is burned. Therefore, its acceleration also increases with time. That causes the velocity to increase even more rapidly. It looks so slow when it takes off because it is moving slowly. How do space shuttles get into orbit? One way for them to get there is inside the nose cone of a rocket. In that case, the space shuttle itself is lifted by rockets into orbit. The spacecraft to be deployed is riding snugly in the cargo bay. At a certain height, the spacecraft is ejected and small rockets on it move to the proper orbit altitude. Why does a rocket work? In space, an engine has nothing to push against. So how do rockets move there? Rockets work by a scientific rule called Newton's third law of motion. Third law says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The rocket pushes on its exhaust. The exhaust pushes rocket too. The rocket pushes the exhaust backward. The exhaust makes the rocket move forward. Once the rocket reaches its determined location, it drops the satellite into its orbit.